The Powkiddy V10 is, right now, my get this as a gift for someone handheld. It has great buttons, a premium feel, at least as far as Powkiddy is concerned. The ergonomics are a weird combination of vertical form factor with some thick hips. And it's cheap as hell. I got this for $35 on Early Bird Special. That's come and gone. But you can reliably get it for about $40 from a couple places. It also has a 3x2 screen that's perfect for Game Boy Advance. And that's not just my opinion. It is objectively pixel perfect because the 480 by 320 screen is exactly twice the size of the old GBA. We're going to talk a lot about GBA later, but I want to focus on my first statement now, how this is the go-to gift handheld. Christmas will be here before you know it, and the V10 is here to help. I bought this one myself, and I've been using it a lot, even with other stuff coming out. I also got one from Go Game Geek, and I'm going to give that one out as a gift to one of my friends. I'm always looking for ways to trap other people in this hobby, and this is a great choice for that. On Powkiddy's website, they're selling these for about $40 plus shipping, but Go Game Geek has them for $42 if you use our RH15 code, and they have free shipping, so that kind of evens out. You can also sometimes get it cheaper on AliExpress with free shipping, but you do have to play the AliExpress lottery. Sometimes you get your handheld, sometimes you get a light bulb. I think Go Game Geek is probably the best all-around bet for this one because of the free shipping, coupon code, and they have a really solid track record of quality control and customer service. Remember the RG Cube? I don't think I've seen a single instance where someone who ordered their Cube from Go Game Geeks had light bleed issues. They kind of like check the handhelds to make sure they're not broken before they ship them to you. Isn't that nice? Anyway, for $40-ish, you're getting the tried and true 3326 chipset that has been featured in handhelds for years now. You're not getting a ton of power. You're going to max out at some N64 and some PSP, but again, it's $40. Since this chipset is ubiquitous, you'll have custom firmware options right out of the gate with customizations and tweaks to come for this particular unit. This has a 3000 milliamp hour battery, which will let people play for about 5 to 7 hours. They say 8, but I feel like you're going to get 8 only if you're playing a ton of lower end stuff. The battery itself is removable from the back, and you don't need to get out a screwdriver. You just flip this little thing and it comes out. That's pretty neat. It ships with ArkOS, which is a solid custom firmware, and it comes with games. The ROM set this comes with is pretty decent, but Powkiddy and Anbernick have been quietly stripping their cards of a lot of first-party Nintendo stuff. So if this is a gift, and the person wants to play Mario, and they will, by the way, I gave an RGB20S to my wife's friend who's out of state, and I ended up having to email her a bunch of Mario Kart files because they weren't on the card that was included with her handheld. It's kind of a hassle, so if this is going to be a gift, keep that in mind. Anyway, if they want to play those missing titles, you'll have to at least take the SD card out and throw the ROMs into the right folders. That's still pretty minimal setup for a gift, and that seems to be the way the wind is blowing now, so it's probably not going to be a unique situation going forward. This thing is missing Wi-Fi, which is kind of a bummer if you're buying it for yourself. You'll miss out on retro achievements, scraping, SHS stuff, all your other Wi-Fi fun, unless you get a dongle. Dongles are cheap, they're ubiquitous, and this thing will take them. You might need to get a USB-C adapter because it does have 2 USB-C ports on top, no USB-A, but otherwise, put a dongle in there and you got Wi-Fi. If this was an $80 handheld, I'd be mad, but for $40, it's kind of a reasonable decision. And again, if you're buying this for a newbie, then missing Wi-Fi is just one less thing you're going to have to explain to them. This isn't a forever handheld either. It's a $40 starter model. Most people have been in the hobby for at least a few months, probably still have their beloved starters sitting somewhere, and it's probably collecting dust while they're using the latest and the greatest as their daily driver. And that's okay. It's the circle of life. Sorry, Elton John. It also doesn't have volume buttons, which is a huge head scratcher. Like, you have a plus and a minus right on the screen. Why can't they be mapped to volume by default? Or maybe you could have thrown a volume wheel or a rocker on the side where there's just a bunch of blank space. I think Powkiddy is legally required to make one absurd oversight per handheld, and the volume control situation on this guy is it. Luckily, you can change the volume with a shortcut by holding the plus button and then pressing left or right on the D-pad to raise or lower your volume. But this is something you're going to have to explain if you're giving it as a gift. Bad, Powkiddy. I got an idea, Powkiddy. Start sending me prototypes and I can tell you when you're going to do something stupid. How about that? Honestly, part of me wonders if this can or will be fixed by adding a specific change in a future release of ArkOS with the V10 in mind. I wouldn't put it past Powkiddy to have put those buttons physically on the handheld, flashed a random version of ArkOS that didn't have any mapping for the buttons, and then they called it a day. So in their mind, plus and minus, that's obviously volume. But then when you actually turn the handheld on, it's not. To me, that seems more plausible than having these buttons that aren't natively mapped to your plus and your minus. Anyway, now it's Game Boy Advance time. I'm not going to play anything else besides Game Boy Advance because for me, this is an ideal Game Boy Advance machine. The video itself has been delayed for a while simply because I've been playing the handheld too much. All your PS1 and below games are going to look fine. They're not going to be pixel perfect, so you might have to use shaders if you're a purist, you know, that sort of thing. But for me at least, this has been my go-to Game Boy Advance machine. I've been leaning heavily on the 35XX SP, and it's still always in my haversack. But this pixel perfect 3.2 screen just calls to me. I know you can play GBA on other bigger screens, like the TrimUI Smart Pro, but I don't know. Maybe it's because GBA was designed for a smaller screen, but it seems like 2X, not 3X, not 4X, anything bigger than that is just a vulgar display of power. But 2X, I don't know, it seems kind of like a sweet spot. It feels right. For Game Boy Advance, to make it even more authentic, I like to run a certain shader. It's LCD 3X, and it adds that grid. If you get rid of it, it makes the screen a little bit brighter, but you lose that little dot matrix. It's entirely up to you. Game Boy Advance on here looks amazing stock, but I do like to add that shader to give it more of that LCD grid like you got with the original. You ready to murder this guy, Erica? Oh yeah. Ooh. Sweet, sweet crit. Your minus button over here is your hotkey, and you press X to get into your RetroArch menu. That's pretty standard. It's also mapped so R2 is fast forward, R1 is save, L1 is load, and then you can remap anything else you want through RetroArch. Pretty simple right out of the gate. The speaker on this isn't the best in the world. It's just this one speaker. When you're at max volume, it gets a little tinny, but again, it's not the end of the world because you're paying $40 for this. It's a starter handheld. Whew. Cutting it pretty close there, Sammy. Some artillery will even the odds. Chumps. Uh-oh! Metroid Zero Mission is so good. This might be sacrilegious, but I like the Game Boy Advance Metroid games maybe a little bit more than Super Metroid. Don't at me. Rebel Star Tactical Command is essentially XCOM on the Game Boy Advance, and it is amazing. This is one of my sneaky favorite Game Boy Advance games, and not a lot of people ever talk about it, and I know you're like, yeah, Zoo, you like tactics games. Well, I do, okay? And this is a good one, so deal with it. I will say that I'm holding it a specific way to film, and normally I'd probably be playing it like this, but when I have my hands further out, I do find myself accidentally brushing the L and R buttons, but in a normal situation, where my hands are holding it normally, it doesn't look as good on camera, but in the normal situation, I don't really have that problem. Oh, for God's sake. Shoot him, Jarrell! Get some more perception so you can actually see what you're shooting at, Jarrell. Well, it's that time for What Did We Learn? We learned that the Powkiddy V10 is, to me at least, a perfect gift option for that $40-ish range. And by the way, probably one of your best Game Boy Advance options just in general. It comes with a 3.5-inch screen that's at 480 by 320, basically the same size as the 351p. You get 2x pixel perfect GBA gameplay. It has a 3000 milliamp hour battery, which is pretty decent for something this size. And it's good for about 6 to 8 hours of gameplay depending on what system you're running. Since this is rocking the tried and true 3326 chipset, we max out at PS1 and some N64. But here's the deal. It's $40, so you're still getting a tremendous value. Even if you only use it for GBA, which is kind of like what I do, it's still less than half the price of an EverDrive cart. Think about that. It's less than a single Switch game. In this economy, unfortunately, $40 has become f***ing around money. Just mentally put yourself in the late 2020 headspace, right? I'll help. Oh geez, someone coughed at daycare. Are they going to shut down for the week? We can't find eggs. Where are the eggs? Okay, are you with me? It's late 2020. Now imagine someone gave you this, a smaller version of a 351V, and they said you can have it for $30. Let's say with inflation, $40 now is $30 back then. You'd buy it in a heartbeat, huh? All right, now get out of that 2020 mindset. I think your best bet for buying this is Go Game Geek. It works out to about $42 with our 15% off code, RH15, and you get free shipping. You can get it from Powkiddy, but you have to pay for shipping. You can get it from AliExpress, but AliExpress is kind of, you win some, you lose some. The face buttons on this are actually good, and not just $40 good. They're good. The triggers are loud. It's kind of annoying. You can always put some electrical tape on them if it drives you nuts, but it's not the end of the world. The lack of the dedicated volume rocker is odd. It's odd. The screen is fine. It's not the brightest in the world. It's not like, oh my god, the best screen in the world, but it's fine. $40. It's $40. It's missing Wi-Fi, but it'll take a dongle. No Wi-Fi is probably my only real problem with this. I like achievements and SHSing, shishing stuff over on the Wi-Fi instead of plugging it in. But again, I got it for $35. You can get it for 40-ish, so you can't be too upset. It's shipped with ArkOS right out of the box. I didn't have any problems with it out of the box. Honestly, that's a huge deal because this is ideally priced, again, as a starter handheld, a gift handheld. This would be a great gift option for anyone even remotely interested in a hobby. And if you got a buddy that's really into Game Boy Advance, or they were, no brainer. No brainer. You will win Christmas with this. Heck, I might give one of these away to draw another one of my buddies into the scene. I'm always trying to drag them into our terrible addiction so we have more people to talk about games with. I think when you factor in price to performance, I'm going to have to give this one 9 out of 10? Maybe 8.5 out of 10. Somewhere between 9 and 8.5. Let's call it 8.776. Been watching the Olympics, they like to get real specific. Missing Wi-Fi and the volume buttons that aren't really volume buttons are really the only thing I can hit them on. Good job on this one, Powkiddy. A rare good job, Powkiddy. Wow. If you think I did a good job on this video, remember to like and subscribe, comment, all that jazz. You know what to do. Ring the bell, click on the thumb, I like it, the thumbs up, all that stuff. It helps the channel, helps us grow, helps us get random stuff to add into our giveaway pile for the end of the year. You know how that all works. So if you are looking for a gift option, speaking of the end of the year, if you're looking for something for Christmas, which will be here sooner than you think, it sneaks up on you, give the V10 a real hard look, because for $40, whew, hard to beat. All right, see you later. Goodbye.